How y'all doing? Redneck Programmer here. So we've been working on this application for a while. Let's dive into it. So we've got a few things that are happening here, and when it breaks, let's go ahead and break it real quick. Wine or spirits? Well, let's put in Bubba. Okay, what happened? Well, it caught an exception, but it didn't throw anything, right? Exception E. Caught it. Well, let's go ahead and print that. An exception occurred. And then we're going to just put E. All right. Now then, whenever this something up here throws an exception in this try-catch block, it's going to catch that exception and print out what it was. And apparently I have misspelled occurred. There's another R. All right, let's run it and break it again. Bubba. There it is. Bubba, not valid. And where does that bubbling not valid come from? Well, this is an interesting concept right here because what happens is it goes into this get alcohol percentage because we call that. And then once that's called, it says drink, which is Bubba that we put in. Bubba's not one of these. So it says it's not valid. But look, there's no print line here. So what happens? Well, this exception is actually bubbled up back here. It's thrown here. And then it's caught in this general exception. And then it prints out an exception has occurred. Drink not valid. Bubba not valid. Illegal argument exception. Just what we got down here. So now then, you know, in the real world, you're not going to be running and trying to debug and catch exceptions in a console, right? You're not going to be waiting for it to pop up here. In the real world, you use log files. And even beyond log files, there are logging applications like Medusa and a few others that'll actually let you log on to a website and view the logs from your application, okay? It lets you search them, run queries. You can do all kinds of stuff to find specific, errors or exceptions that have occurred. But let's stick to the next level of exception handling. Let's create a log file. So to create a log file, what do we need to use? Well, we're going to use a logging library, right? And the one that we are going to use is Logger. And I noticed that I seem to have put this up here before, but you will have to import the library. It's a Java utility, logging.logger. So this is going to be creating a new instance of Logger. So this is the name, this is the type, and we're going to do what? We're going to say logger.getLog. Logger.getLogger. And then it's looking for a string. Well, what's it looking for? So let's just call it my log. Okay. Now Logger is going to create a resource called my log. So now we got to create a file, which means, yep, we got to use another library. So what are we going to use? Well, there's a library called Filehandler right there. So let's call it Filehandler. So now then, there are several layers, there are levels of logs. There's some that are just informative. That says, hey, this was created. Nothing broke. So that's called an info. So what we'd use is logger.info. Some of them are more severe, like errors that would crash it. You use logger.severe. Some of them, they don't crash it, but they cause problems. What would you use? It's a warning, so you'd use logger.warn. So, where are we going to put this? Well, instead of printing it here, we don't want to print anymore. We're not going to do a print out. We want to log it to our file. So we're going to say logger.severe. We're going to say something went horribly wrong. Here it is. All right. And then concatenate the actual error. So now instead of printing it, it's going to log that. Finally, we're not going to give another one that's severe, because this just said that the try-catch block completed. So we can just do logger.info, application complete, or application completed successfully. We can do something like that. So now we're logging these instead of printing them. So we're throwing it here. This one, let's throw one here and say the same thing. We're going to say gender not valid. All right? Do we have any more? Well, this is actually being printed out to the user interface as information. So we don't really log that. All of these are being printed out. So this looks okay. Well, now that we've instantiated these, we need to actually use them, right? So we need to put it in the try-catch block, because when it enters the try, that means the program is actually starting to run. So let's say Filehandler does something. What does it do? Creates a new Filehandler. Now we need this to be created in a directory. So if you're on Windows, you're going to use one. If you're on Mac, you're going to use another one. This is the directory that I'm going to actually use here, because I want it to go to my desktop. And I want it to create a log file. So we pass this as a string. And it's going to this directory, my desktop, and it's going to call it, I can call this whatever I want. We can call this BAC log file. Okay? Now it's created that. Now we need a handler for our file handler. So we're going to do logger dot add handler, and we're going to pass it file handler. Now then, this is the next little part here. This is just some formatting on how we want the log file set up. So we're going to use another library called Simpleformatter. We'll call that formatter equals new Simpleformatter. So we're instantiating a new Simpleformatter object. And then we'll say filehandler.setFormatter. And then we'll pass it that new one. And then we'll do logger.set use parent handlers. But we want that set to false. We don't want it to use the parent handlers. We want it to use the handler we just set up, right? Okay. Let's run this. All right, let's make this both on one screen so we can see it. So when we execute it, it should create a log file over here. And it does. Okay, now let's break it. Bubba. All right, as you notice, that lock is gone. Why was that lock there? Well, that lock was there because this log file was being written to. So what does it say in here? Because this is finished. But I didn't get a legal argument exception printed out here. Okay? Because it's in the log file. Something went horribly wrong. There was a illegal argument exception. Bubba not valid. Application finished successfully. Well, it didn't really finish successfully. It failed successfully. Right? So this is how you create a log file and start writing to it. So in the next one, we're going to take it a little bit further. Bye, y'all.